Hey, so what I wanted to talk about today was I wanted to talk about The Boys and kind of maybe some reasons of why the show has become a massive hit despite there being generally like this an undeniable superhero fatigue, right? Which I do think is reflected in the success and interest in various movies and, video games and TV shows, streaming TV shows as well, which is, reflects directly to The Boys being an Amazon thing. So, first, kind of like the unique concept, at least within the the streaming space and what we've seen exactly adapted. I know the kind of trope of the what if Superman was bad is pretty bland at this point. I don't know what's the best way of putting it, but ignoring that, and I would say that the way that they do Homelander is a little bit more, complex than that of just things I find terribly boring, like Superman Red Son or whatever. Or even to some extent, no, let's not get into Omni-Man right now. Let's do Invincible as another thing. But it does flip the genre on its head, at least what people are used to in terms of like movies and streaming and whatever. You're imagining the super world as corporate powers and the public personas as the facade for some pretty dark secrets. It's like I do cringe at the word gritty, but it's kind of realistic, but it's kind of going for that sort of like take on superheroes, and it is a breath of fresh air in a genre that's often dominated by unquestionable sort of like blandness of idealism and morality, because I really like that stuff. I'm a big Superman fan. Like, I love All-Star Superman. I love Grant Morrison. I love, you know what I mean? Like, I love all this stuff, but the way it's kind of like, portrayed in a lot of these like shows and movies is like completely paper thin. So I think this kind of like, looking at it in a new way is really, really interesting. Especially, how they comment on sort of like the streaming service itself and like, and product and, and media and all that sort of stuff. It's the PR stuff that's like the most engaging stuff about the Boys TV show, which does make it very, very different from the Garth Ennis comic books, which I don't rate. I think they're cynical. Those comic books were, and Grant Morrison's kind of on the record about this, of just like, superheroes are goofy, I don't like them, I don't like the Justice League, so here's them being racist idiots and dying in gruesome ways. It feels like The Boys, the comic book, doesn't respect you as a reader and makes fun of you for liking comic books. That's not what they're doing with the show. With the show, it's all about that media, that PR, that all that sort of stuff, and it's really, really interesting and is complete breath of fresh air, and very different from the comic, which does make this whole entire like show, because I do think the Boys TV show is pretty good. It does make the entire show kind of surprising to me, because it's like, hey, what if we took like The Boys, crappy, cynical comic book, and we got Eric Kripke, we got the dude who made Supernatural, okay, sort of like teen Tumblr schlock, and he's gonna make a show, and it's actually sick. So it's interesting. Next thing I'd say is the characters. I mean, you can go from like, Billy Butcher's sort of like relentless quest for revenge against Homelander, and, Homelander's, terrifying, but really captivating unpredictability. Just looking at that there, looking at Homelander there, and I know he's the easy one to pick, right? But each character is kind of like multi-dimensional. There's stuff going on. You even look at like what they do with like with Starlight and kind of like her various faces and her various motives and stuff like that. It does bring something unique. It does bring something different to the table. And these shows' creators, I'm talking about Eric Kripke here, right? Like the people who've adapted this and, completely morphed this into this new thing for Amazon. They, in my opinion, have done a pretty excellent job in developing these characters and making them complex and for nearly your entire cast morally ambiguous, which is kind of interesting, right? Then there's the satire, right, which I was talking about before, kind of. It does really good satire of modern society, particularly, our obsession with celebrity culture, corporate power. It's kind of holding up a mirror to those sorts of things in the world and making us sort of question the ethics of hero worship and the true nature of power. Because you see stuff in the show, I mean, like in those recent episodes where it's like, they had Firecracker being released, revealed as this, it's this like pedophile, this sex offender, and it's like, oh yeah, like, and all our fans start defending her, and it's like, oh well, that wouldn't happen in the real world. And then like a week later, you got that Dr. Disrespect stuff about him trying to like with minors, and then people are defending him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it's really good at kind of like bringing up a mirror to those sorts of things, and I hate, again, it's cliched, but sometimes it's like scarily true at times. I do think when they just kind of have like these episodes of just like, ooh, like, woke. And like, I don't know, like sometimes it goes off like a bit too much, and it's not preachy, it's just like too on the nose. At least that's kind of my opinion. Nose? I didn't even hit my nose. Alright. But, I don't know. I think most of the time it's really, really good. Shock value. Right? The show doesn't shy away from graphic violence, dark humor. There's always those moments that come up and people kind of like talk about, like, oh, when that happened. Right? And I'd say mature themes, but they're very immature. It's done in like a pretty like Looney Tunes ass way. It's kind of like done in the same sort of vein as, I've talked about this a lot, Joe Dante's Gremlins 2, The New Batch, right? It is really goofy, but of course there's like gore and buttholes and whatever, right? But that kind of like unflinching approach, it keeps viewers on the edge of their seats because you never kind of know what to expect next. It's shocking, it's raw, and it's incredibly engaging from like a viewer's standpoint, and also just like conversation at the water cooler with like people, But like, shows can't just be about this sort of like shock and awe, right? It does have those moments where like, like there's that episode like in the most recent season, right, where it was Huey dealing with like, I don't want to directly spoil this, but like Huey dealing with like stuff going on with his father, and then a bunch of the other characters were going through like some crazy pooping butthole explosion kind of stuff, right? And people who talk to me, it's like, oh, have you seen The Boys episode this week? It's like, it's really sad, it's really emotional. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it can still do that stuff, and it still clearly resonates with like a grand portion of the audience. I do think it misses at times, right? But I do think that like when it does tackle like trauma, abuse of power, corruption, it can most of the time sort of balance those darker elements, and these moments of genuine emotion and social commentary, making it more than just sort of like mindless like entertainment. It's not just constantly like Homelander saying a meme and then somebody's butthole explodes and then you go like, whoa, is that covered in blood? Or I don't know, right? The production quality is another factor, right? The special effects, like for a streaming thing, are pretty top notch. The set designs are really cool. I love the Vought Tower with the the marble statuettes or whatever behind them. I think it's really cool. It feels high quality. It looks and feels high quality. And the attention to detail, I think, is really, really pretty good. And the set design, stuff like that. Whether it's the action sequences or whether it's the quieter character-driven moments, which are usually kind of my thing, the thing that I'm really into. Performances. The performances are sick. You've got Carl Urban there, who's like an amazing actor. Anthony Starr is obviously kind of like the breakout of this show. I mean, even like Erin Moriarty, I think she does pretty well in the role. So there's good performances, and their portrayals are, the portrayals give enough to make us like care about the characters, to make us, you know, be scared of the characters or fear for them, you know, fear for them. Finally, I think something that's benefited from this show, like, has contributed to kind of like the huge success of the show, is the unpredictability. And by doing it as, you know, as Amazon do, as these like weekly releases, there's people talking about it every week. If this was a binge show, it would not have the same impact, nor would they design the episodes the same way, because streaming, the way that like these binge kind of like seasons are designed, is the episodes are kind of, it almost feels like the third act happens in like the middle of an episode, then they set up something new, and it's kind of all just like structured differently. But the fact that it comes out weekly, the fact it's got this unpredictability, the plot sort of twists and turns, it keeps viewers guessing. They don't save everything for the finale. I mean, like, you had, like, you know, Butcher's kind of reveal of, like, the dudes in his head. Like, that happened, you know, in the latest season, that happened at, like, episode 6 or whatever the hell, right? They don't just like save things for the finale. Like, stuff will keep going. It keeps you guessing, right? It's ensuring the story never becomes too stale or too stable, for that matter. It is kind of like a roller coaster ride of emotions, surprises, which of course, if you're catching up on the show, it makes it really binge worthy. But if you're one of the many people who are watching this, you know, up to date, it keeps you coming back for more. So I don't know. These were just some of my thoughts on the show. I just kind of wanted to talk about it because there's not a lot of sort of like big cultural things, because, you know, overcome everything, because there's so many different things out there and you got so many things to choose from. But if there is stuff that is popular, I'd put The Boys up there. It's pretty like pretty relevant, right? So I don't know. Just a few little views on that. If you enjoyed this video, I mean, like, hang around and you know, comments, man. What do you think about The Boys? What you want me to talk about next? You know I love telling you guys in the comments. Anyway, I will catch you all later, and take care.